Hey, I'm Rachel,
And I'm Amanda, and this is Beyond a Ballot.
powered by DoorDash. Welcome to our last episode of the Beyond a Ballot podcast for 2024. Amanda, can you believe we're halfway through season 2 already?
I can't believe it, and I can't believe we're at the end of 2024.
I know.
It went by in a flash.
It really did, because I feel like we were just sitting here doing the review of 2023, and now it's time to look back on 2024 and really take the pulse of the nation and try and understand what Canadians cared about over the last year. And to do that, today we have a very exciting guest. We are very thrilled to have Eric Grenier from the Writ newsletter and co-host of the Numbers podcast. We love numbers, to come and talk to us about Canadians and Canada and politics and everything that happened in 2024. Welcome, Eric. Hi.
Hi, happy to be here.
We're so thrilled to have you. And we love these look backs because we really get an opportunity to remember what has taken place and how far we have come or not come throughout the last year. So why don't we just put to you a bigger question? How are Canadians feeling in 2024 about politics in general? What was your sense?
Well, I think that they were feeling pretty grumpy for most of the year. I think we saw that there was that anti-incumbency move that was pretty strong. And we saw that in a number of provincial elections, even the ones where there was a re-elected NDP government in British Columbia, where Scott Moe was re-elected. In Saskatchewan, there was big drops in support. You didn't see that in Nova Scotia happen, but maybe Tim Houston bucked the trend a little bit. I think that has been one of the factors. Justin Trudeau and the Liberals have really dropped a lot over the course of the year, even more than they had in 2023. So I think we've seen a move against the incumbent government in Ottawa as well. So I do think there has been that level of discontent that we've seen. And a lot of it has been driven by Canadians feeling that life is unaffordable. People trying to get in the housing market can't do it, and looking for someone to blame. And Justin Trudeau has been usually the one who gets a lot of that blame.
And have you seen, as you've been watching those numbers this year, have they stayed pretty stable with the feds, with each of the party leaders, or have you seen any major dips in it, or maybe not dips, maybe rise and dip throughout the year?
It has been pretty stable. It's not as volatile as it was in 2023, because at about the midpoint of the year, the polls were showing that the Conservatives and the Liberals were more or less tied. Sometimes the Conservatives were a little bit further ahead. Pierre Poilievre's personal ratings were okay, but they weren't great. Justin Trudeau's were still bad, but they weren't awful. And then by the end of the year, Conservatives had opened up a lead of 10 points, 15 points sometimes. Pierre Poilievre's numbers did improve. He still is kind of a net even in terms of the number of Canadians who like him and dislike him. And for Justin Trudeau, it's been more of a 2-to-1 that they don't like him. Over the course of the year, a lot of that has just, I think, gotten more solid. And I think that's what's really the biggest problem for the Liberals. They have lost a bit of support. If we compare them to where they were at the beginning of the year, they're maybe another 5 points back from where they were. So that whole goal to change the gap between the Conservatives and the Liberals by 5 points, maybe it went in the opposite direction than what they were intending. But we've seen that for Pierre Poilievre's numbers have held pretty steady, despite various bad news cycles that he's had. On the whole, it's been that it doesn't really matter. I think it does show that Canadians, especially the ones who don't like Justin Trudeau, kind of don't mind that Poilievre is a little bit more pugnacious, a little bit more aggressive than what we've seen from some leaders in the past. And Justin Trudeau's numbers just have ticked down to become a little bit worse. It's not that there's been a big movement. It's just that the trends have continued. If you take a straight line and you run it pretty much from when the Liberals and Trudeau were at their highest level of support at the height of the pandemic, that straight line is pretty straight down. And it's just been continuing. And I think that's what's really so much trouble for the Liberals, is that when it is driven by an individual event, a scandal, just something that happened, I think it's easier to reverse it than when it is something that is just a drip, 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 drip that's been going for so long.
Just for our listeners who may not be paying attention to all the polls, could you just give a quick snapshot of where the parties are right now in terms of numbers and maybe where the leaders are in terms of numbers federally?
Yeah, sure. Right now, the Liberals are usually somewhere around 21, 22% support. That seems to be the consensus we've seen from the pollsters over the last couple of weeks. And that puts them about 20 points behind the Conservatives, who are usually around 42 to 43%. For the New Democrats, they've been somewhere around 19. There's been a couple of polls now that have put them 20, 21, but they do seem to be at the higher end of the teens. So that's kind of what we're looking at now, is that it's a 20-point lead for the Conservatives over the Liberals, and maybe a 2 or 3 point lead for the Liberals over the NDP for that second spot. In terms of the leaders, Pierre Poilievre's, his approval ratings, it really kind of depends on how the question is asked. Because if you do ask just straight up approval, disapproval, he tends to have higher disapproval numbers than approval. But if you just ask, do you like him? Do you have a positive or negative impression? There we see that we have roughly 40% of Canadians think positively of Pierre Poilievre, and roughly 40%, sometimes a little bit lower, think negatively of him. For Trudeau, it's more of a 30 to 60 or 25 to 65 kind of split in terms of the people liking him versus disliking him. And one of the things that has happened over the last year, I'd say, is that Jagmeet Singh has gone from being largely a positive, that people liked him more than disliked him, that now he's more of a either even or a negative. So I do think that maybe the closeness that the NDP has had with the government has hurt Jagmeet Singh a little bit. And especially over the last few months, it does seem to have hurt him. So you have Pierre Poilievre was roughly even, Jagmeet Singh a little bit underwater, Justin Trudeau deeply underwater.
So have we ever seen a gap like this before of 20 points between the leading party and the sitting government?
I think we have to go back to when we were all either not born or very infantile. You probably have to go back to the Brian Mulroney years to find this kind of gap. That's kind of it. Jean Chrétien led throughout his entire time in office. Paul Martin only lost lead in the polls, 2 weeks before Election Day in 2006. Stephen Harper, in his worst times, he was still at most behind by 5 to 10 points. They always kept that 30% support. So we really haven't seen this since the days of Brian Mulroney, which is usually the worst kind of precedent that you can think of.
Wow.
I mean, that's just not good.
So,
okay.
Wait,
so
can I ask
have a
about
question
the NDP?
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I wanted to just go back to Jagmeet Singh and the NDP, because to me, they're a really interesting wild card in this upcoming race. And you said that they went down a little bit after ripping up the supply and confidence agreement. They haven't really picked up the steam they kind of need post separation with the Liberals. Sorry. What is it going to take to move the needle on Jagmeet Singh? Like, do we see it kind of going up and down, or is he kind of just staying steady? Why is that not working for the NDP?
I think it's not working in part because of Jagmeet Singh. Because the NDP's numbers have gotten a little bit better over the last maybe the last month or two. Now it's more likely to see them in 19, 20% rather than 17 or 18. But Singh's numbers haven't gotten any better. His numbers, if anything, have gotten a little worse over the last little while. You do wonder, how would they be doing if it was a Jack Layton or one of their more popular leaders in the past? Would the NDP be at 25, 30% right now? I'm not sure. It's just that Jagmeet Singh does not seem to have been able to break through. And with the Liberals as weak as they are, you would expect that the NDP would be taking more of that support away from the Liberals. With the kind of numbers we've seen over the last little while, where the Liberals are now only 1 or 2 points ahead, it almost seems to me like a reluctant, if we're not going for the Liberals and we're not going for the Conservatives, then I guess it has to be the NDP right now. It just does feel that they would be doing much better if they had a little bit more of a leader that I think Canadians saw as a prime minister. I think that Singh has always kind of struggled to get beyond the superficiality, getting deeper on his arguments. It's always seemed to have been the biggest problem he's had, is that once you get past that first or second line, it doesn't get much different. It's often the same first or second line that gets repeated again. So I do think for the NDP, one of the issues has been Singh, and it's hard to find any other reason why Democrats haven't been able to take advantage of the Liberal drop as past iterations of the party has been able to do.
I want to deal with, as a liberal, I want to deal with an elephant in the room, which is to talk about Trudeau's popularity and to talk about how his popularity or unpopularity affects the overall party numbers. So do you have a sense of, would the party be in a different position with a different leader? Is that a question that you probe at all? Or is this really just about incumbency and the electorate really just wanting a change?
I think that all the numbers that we've seen about whether you substitute in another leader instead of Justin Trudeau, it usually doesn't make that much of a difference. But it's hard to separate a lot of the people that are put into those polls, Chrystia Freeland, Melanie Joly, people like that, who I think are very closely aligned with the Liberal government, seen as just another version of Justin Trudeau. If we had someone waiting in the wings that had a really high profile and who was popular and that was being tested, I think you might see that the Liberal numbers could be higher. I know people talk about Mark Carney. I don't get the impression that he's actually well known outside of people like you and I.
What about Christy Clark?
Oh, there was one poll that showed that she did not help very much at all.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Especially in British Columbia. I think that when you're a polarizing figure, it doesn't always help. But yeah, you just don't really get the impression that there is someone there who would automatically give the Liberals a 5-point bump. But I'm not sure if it's because of, as you said, like if it's just incumbency, the wear and tear of a government, or that I think for a lot of Canadians, it's hard to separate Justin Trudeau from the Liberal Party. It's not like in the past where you could choose the different versions of the Chrétien or the Martin or the Trudeau or the Turner. It's just Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party are synonymous right now. And I think that's maybe the biggest issue that they would have in a leadership race. Someone would have to become not the anti-Trudeau, but the non-Trudeau. And I'm not sure if we know who that would be from the stable of potential candidates.
I want to talk about the popularity of the premiers. Offline, Amanda said they're having a moment right now, and they are. I mean, we've seen more from these premiers in the last couple of weeks since Trump announced these potential tariffs than I think we've seen in years, really. They're front headline news. Doug Ford's doing all kinds of interviews and PR events. Yes, a couple of days ago, the Angus Reid Institute put out their rankings of the premiers. And Wab Kinew, who we are going to go and interview in the next couple of months in Winnipeg, is leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else. Tim Houston, who was ranked much lower before the election, has now been catapulted up to second place, which is pretty wild. Going into 2025, what do you think the year was like for the premiers? And how can you reconcile this kind of big move, the jump in Wab Kinew support and Tim Houston with Doug Ford, who's sitting in last place right now?
Well, one thing, I think people like a winner. I think you see that with Houston. Scott Moe's numbers also went up a little bit, not as dramatically, but they did go up. So I think that helps. David Eby's didn't actually move, so I'm not sure what that says. Wab Kinew, his numbers, I think, are the most remarkable ones because he's at 67% approval, and they have gone up.
Right.
This is the highest they've been since he became premier. So it's not only a honeymoon; it's it's like the renewing the vows every couple of months. How he's able to do that is something that you should ask him. How are you so successful?
We will ask him that.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be very very humble about it. But for Doug Ford, he is just, I know people always call him Teflon Doug Ford, I guess. His approval rating, I think, was something like 34, 36%, and it's the worst in the country. But he's one of the safest premiers.
Right.
I would, François Legault had a slightly higher approval rating. Andrew Furey did. I would bet on Doug Ford winning an election many times over before those two. And it just is, I think, for Doug Ford, what his advantage is, first of all, the opposition's divided. But secondly, I think it's that there is a chunk of voters in Ontario who might not like Doug Ford. They don't have a strong opinion about him, and they're fine with it. And I think that is really what is key to Doug Ford's success, is that there's a chunk of voters in Ontario who are very happy to have an excuse not to go out and vote, as we saw within the last election, with turnout being so low. And you do get this impression that for a lot of Ontarians, they don't dislike him enough to go out to vote him out. which is in a way almost a vote of re-election, a vote of support for him. So
Right.
he's just been a remarkable premier for that he has the worst ratings in the country, but is one of the safest ones.
Which is so funny because we started this whole thing talking about, the downfall of the incumbent governments, and yet he's been able to hang on. And he always seems to have these moments at really critical times, right? Like this juncture before we think he will call an election next year. And I'll ask you about that in a moment, where he's really taken a front and center stage approach on the tariffs. So I think it's interesting that he knows how to pick his moments, and sometimes, not always, but knows how to pick his moments and knows how to milk them. Do you think that having a moment like this can turn his numbers heading into 2025?
It's hard to imagine that they could get much better. I think he could personally improve his numbers. The PCs are usually somewhere around 42, 43, something like that. It's hard to imagine them getting much higher than that. I think they do have a ceiling. But Ford could improve his numbers. It is interesting to see him take this role because he hasn't always taken this national role.
Yeah,
He's kind of shied away from it. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do see his numbers actually go up because Canadians still, I know there's been some polling that shows that more Canadians like Donald Trump than they did before. Most Canadians still dislike Donald Trump. His numbers are very bad. And I think there is an electorate out there for someone to take a little bit more of an aggressive approach. So I think that it is interesting to see him take this moment, particularly if he's only a couple months away from an election. It might be a good move for him. And he seems to have some good instincts to know when he's gone too far because he's often backtracked or apologized or that kind of thing. And I think that his instincts might be working for him well right now as well.
Well, interesting. Yeah, I would love to see his Fox News campaign. I can't wait to see that one. All his ads. Very interesting what he's doing out there in Ontario, waiting for David Eby to do it out here in BC too. Issues. What were the issues that Canadians cared about in 2024?
It's just cost of living. It's affordability. It's inflation. It's that is what tops the polls every time. If you ask Canadians what their top issue is, if you make them choose one of three, for example, you usually get 65, 70% of Canadians who will say that. So that is still the main issue that voters are focused on. Housing affordability is one as well, although that'll depend on the demographic. Younger voters much more likely to be worried about housing affordability than older voters, understandably. But I do still think cost of living is the main issue for Canadians and will continue to be because, the Bank of Canada just reduced the rate, inflation might be down, but the cost of stuff is not going down. It's still high. So people can still see that, when they go out and buy cheese or whatever, that it's dollars more than it used to be. So it doesn't, even if, inflation might mean that the cost of that isn't going to keep increasing. It's already a lot higher than it was. And so I do think that is still going to be an issue going into the next election, even if by the time we get there, the underlying economics are all good. As we saw in the United States, it's what you feel that will determine how you vote rather than what the economists are saying is the state of the economy.
Can I just ask a follow-up to that?
Go ahead.
So who do you think Canadians blame for those cost of living issues? Like, was this a year where it was really the Trudeau government that wore a lot of the economic woes that we're seeing, or do Canadians mainly believe that it's global factors and other things?
It does seem that a lot of the blame has gone to Justin Trudeau. I'm sure if you sat down Canadians individually and asked them, what's causing this, they wouldn't just say, well, it's all Justin Trudeau's fault. But you do have to blame someone. And whether or not you think that Justin Trudeau and the Liberals were responsible for the cost of living crisis, the problems that people are having, they could have done things to mitigate it. So you do still have to look at your level of government that you're going to be blaming the most for whatever is ailing the economy, and that is usually the federal government. If the top issue right now was healthcare, then it might be the provincial governments that would be wearing it. But I think you have this combination that people are blaming the feds for the state of the economy, and they also don't like Justin Trudeau, which makes it even easier to do that. I think when you saw Nova Scotia, for example, Tim Houston's still pretty popular. Voters weren't blaming him for the economy.
Right, exactly.
If they disliked him, if he wasn't popular, he might get more of the blame. Like in Quebec, for example, François Legault gets quite a bit of blame for the state of the economy because he has about the same level of approval as Justin Trudeau. So I think that kind of colors a lot of people's views of the state of the country, of the leaders, is already what they think about them. And then they kind of push their understanding of how things work to match their views of their political leaders and who they want to vote for.
We have, for the benefit of many of our listeners who are women, shout out to the guys who are listening right now. Do you see in your research that there are issues that are percolating that are women, quote unquote, women's issues, or issues that you find women to be more invested in, more interested in, could percolate in 2025?
To be honest, I haven't seen a huge gender divide on issues that much, which I think is actually kind of interesting. You know, if you talk about other countries or the United States, there usually is a huge gender divide on voting intentions and support for leaders. Here we do see that, you know, the Conservatives do worse among women than they do among men, but they still win the female vote by a wide margin. Right. And when you're looking at those issues, you know, you're less likely to see the kind of issues that I think are top of mind for conservative male voters. So things like immigration, you know, that might not resonate as much among women, but it is still housing. It still is cost of living. It's still those issues that I think are resonating the most. There might be small differences between genders in terms of the top issues, but in terms of the overarching one that is going to decide the next election, I still think it just comes down to cost of living.
Yep. Agreed. That's on everyone's mind. Okay. We're keeping you longer than we promised you, but I want to ask you one final question as we wrap 2024 and look into 2025. As a man who is focused on the numbers, where are you putting your money on the date of the next federal election?
Okay, I have another question. So we're going to have to keep you for two. Because I want to crystal ball something else. Okay, you start with that one.
Crystal ball's out. When's the election?
Crystal ball is out. Let's predict.
I mean, it's either that the NDP defeats the government in the spring budget or that it goes all the way to October, 21st or 22nd or whatever it is. Before
You're a betting guy.
Yeah, where are you landing? Where are you landing?
My gut still makes me think that the government will fall on the budget. But before the GST thing where they managed to get the NDP on side, and the NDP has been pretty helpful.
Yeah.
You know, they haven't been entirely helpful, but they've been pretty helpful to the Liberals even the last few weeks. If you had asked me before that, I would have said maybe 90-10 chance that it would be in the spring versus next fall. Now I'm maybe more 60-30, 65-35, something like that. So maybe 2-1 odds I'd give to an election in the spring, but I still kind of think it could drag on until the scheduled date in October.
What else is there to do?
I know,
what are we going to do for a year?
Oh, well, the MPs do seem like they're done.
They're done.
They seem like they're done.
They really do. They really do. My follow-up question, sorry to keep you a little longer, but I think this is a good one. You talked about how solid those numbers are. And so if they were softer, I would be like, okay, what are the things? One of the things that we talked about a lot heading into the American election was that if Donald Trump is elected, it could change everything. So I'm curious, as somebody who studies the numbers, do you think that Donald Trump's election and his inauguration in January could change the outcomes for any of the parties as it stands today?
I think it is the one wild card, the one thing that could change the trajectory of the next election. Do I think it's enough to have the Liberals overcome a 20-point gap? No.
That's what I'm looking for, Eric.
I'm sorry. I don't think that's going to happen. But if the Liberals, if Justin Trudeau handles this well, I think it could boost their numbers. We've seen polling that does suggest that on all of the issues that you could confront them with, Canadians are most likely to say that the Liberals are competitive on dealing with Trump. You know, if you're talking about immigration, the economy, things like that, it's a huge lead for the Conservatives. So this is the one issue where they can be pretty competitive on something that Canadians care about. So I think it does give them an opportunity. But is it enough to overcome that historically big gap? I really don't think so. But could it help them save the furniture and make the election not so much of a slam dunk for Pierre Poilievre? Maybe. But it is that kind of wild card where there is the opportunity there, but it doesn't mean that it couldn't go the other way and go the other way pretty quickly. So it is the wild card, though. It is the one thing. I love
these crystal ball moments. These are the best.
Oh yeah. Who's going to be
Eric,
prime minister in 2025?
You are the best. I feel like we want.
Do you need a crystal ball for that one?
This was way too short, by the way.
I know.
20 minutes is not long enough with Eric Grenier. You're like an encyclopedia. You have all the answers. We need you. Will you promise to come back in 2025 so that we can rehash some of these numbers and maybe get a look ahead as we near an election date?
And collect your winnings?
I'd be happy to.
Collect your winnings from your crystal ball.
I don't place any bets, though.
Oh, no.
No bets.
I can't do that.
No.
Okay, I'll place bets for you on a post-budget election. Okay, Eric Grenier from the Writ and the Numbers podcast. We are so thrilled to have you, and we will have you back in 2025. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you.
And now a word from our title sponsor, DoorDash. Season 2 of Beyond a Ballot is officially powered by DoorDash. Just like we go beyond a ballot, DoorDash goes beyond delivery. DoorDash is committed to helping merchants reach new customers, providing Dashers with flexibility, and helping Canadians find more time for what matters most. Given that we're wrapping up 2024 with this episode looking at some highlights in Canadian politics this year, we thought it would be fitting to do the same with our title sponsor, DoorDash. This season, we've highlighted some proud merchants and Dashers across Canada to explore how DoorDash has positively impacted their lives. And as Beyond a Ballot wraps up for 2024, we wanted to take a moment to acknowledge some of our favorites. So without further ado, here are 5 things we learned from DoorDash's first ever Canadian Community Impact Report. At number 5, we have 93% of Dashers surveyed agree that dashing provides them with more flexibility compared to other job opportunities. Coming in at number 4 is DoorDash is often at the heart of special occasions, with 56% of consumers surveyed using DoorDash for a date night and 47% to celebrate a birthday. I know I've done that. At number 3, we have 1 in 3 merchants surveyed say that DoorDash is crucial to their business's success. For number 2, it's 78% of parents surveyed say DoorDash helps them be productive or gives them more time for other activities. And 70% of those parents use that extra time to be with their families. And finally, at our number 1 spot is the support that DoorDash has given to women across Canada this year, including us, to help support their businesses, whether a restaurant or believing in a small business that educates women about politics. All right, so that was Eric Grenier with the Writ and the Numbers podcast. And now we are back with Amanda and I to just wrap up 2024 and have it together. A nice little chat before we go off for the holidays.
That's right.
Your favorite time of year.
It really is my favorite time of year. I've been like deep into Christmas. It's hard to go from like Christmas joy to political banter, you know?
There's some Christmas joy in political banter.
I mean, there's not a lot of Christmas joy over here, girl. But when it comes to politics, as per Eric's predictions, but wasn't he great?
He's really great. I love a good numbers person. Holy.
Me too. We have to have him back.
Yeah.
And you have to tell us if you like that, listeners.
Yeah,
if you if you're into it, if you like I think what will be really exciting is to have him back before the federal election or before another big provincial election like Ontario, and we can talk numbers again.
Yeah, it was interesting. As we were talking to him, I was thinking like when we come back, we will be back right after Trump's inauguration. So that's the 20th. We're coming back on the 24th of January. Mark your calendars. That's kind of like we're off to the races. When could the election happen? Trump's going to be in the presidency. Like we could already have tariffs in place by the time we get back.
For sure.
So I kind of feel like for all of us in our community, we need to just kind of take the next couple of weeks, enjoy the time off, because 2025 is going to be a wild political ride. It really is.
It is.
Speaking of tariffs, this week has been very tariff heavy. We put out our Beyond a Ballot newsletter this week, and the title was The T Word, not Taylor, not Trump, tariffs. Because that's been all over the news, and it's absolutely terrifying. I think Doug Ford came out this week and said, this isn't a question of whether or not he's going to put tariffs in. It's how do we react to when he puts tariffs in? And I think that messaging really changed this week. It went from these proposed tariffs they were talking about to now the premiers have gotten together a couple of times, and that coming out of Ford's mouth really scared me. It's kind of like certainty.
Yeah. We've been talking about this a lot. Tariffs on CBC and other places. And one of the things we talked about this week was the idea that sometimes it's hard to remember 6 years ago, but 6 years ago in 2018, Trump slapped a 10% tariff on Canadian aluminum and steel. What did we do? Did we take a lame duck approach? Did we sit idly by? No, we did not. We did not. We responded in kind with a $16 billion matching dollar for dollar tariff on American imports. And you want to know what happened? I'll tell you what happened. Neither lasted very long. Ultimately, both of the tariffs were dropped because it wasn't mutually beneficial to either country. And so I think that, of course, it would be devastating to have tariffs of that magnitude on Canadian goods. But there are some things that we have to remember as Canadians, because sometimes I feel like we really feel like the small guy. We are the US's largest export. We are bigger than China, UK, France, Japan combined. We provide Americans with critical oil, electricity, minerals, metals, water. We're a very important part of the ecosystem and of the economy. So I think that what you're going to be hearing from a lot of the premiers is, and they started talking about it yesterday, the list of things, the chips that they can put in the window, right? And that's, this is part of the negotiation is happening over the airwaves right now. This is how he does business. And so when you hear Trump calling Trudeau, the next governor of the great state of Canada, you have to take this stuff with a grain of salt. Trump is notoriously known for his destabilizing negotiation tactics. He likes to throw chaos into the mix. That's how he does it. And the first stage of negotiation, in his view anyways, is over the airwaves. So we have chips to play.
Destabilizing tweets, basically.
Yes.
Which is crazy.
What other world leader is up at midnight tweeting about another world leader? I mean, what territory are we in right now?
Oh my gosh. The world we're living in, and we have to take it seriously. And that's the craziest part.
Yeah.
Trump. Okay. The tariffs are one thing.
Yeah.
Trump is another thing. The premiers are another thing to me. And what's so interesting is we talk about this all the time when it comes to certain issues like healthcare and the responsibility of the province versus the federal government. But when it comes to this all Canada approach to global affairs, to Trump's proposed or definitely going to happen tariffs, what I keep going back and forth, like, what's the right thing to do? I mean, Doug Ford has done an incredible job of really coming out and saying like, we will cut off energy to the United States. Like, here's what Ontario's doing. They've bought ads. He asked the prime minister to buy federal ads in the US. Danielle Smith put out a border security policy yesterday. So what's the right approach? I keep going back and forth on this. Like, I think that, and I heard David Eby speak in person in Vancouver a couple of days ago, and he's really bought into this all Canada, all hands on deck approach. As opposed to the Conservatives who are really going for it on the provincial level. But I don't know. I kind of feel like every province really needs to step up. Do you agree?
I do too. But I think what I like about this Team Canada approach is that, united we stand, divided we fall.
Right.
And the ability for us to look like we are shoulder to shoulder. Different provinces obviously provide the US with different things.
Yeah.
So we cannot be divided. At least that's the message we want to put forward.
Right.
And I think that I've been impressed actually with how the premiers have responded and how they've worked with the feds. I mean, we have such a divided political system right now that it's almost surprising when a premier walks out of the first minister's meeting that happened with the prime minister this week. And Doug Ford said, he actually gave, praise is maybe a strong word, but he was very positive, very complimentary to the feds for the plan that they had put forward for border security. And it's been a long time, since we've seen that kind of united approach, but nothing brings a country together more than a threat from somewhere else. And so kudos to the premiers who are putting Canadians first, who are putting the country first before their own, partisan advantage. And I'll say the last thing I'll say about this, which I know you'll have tons to say about, is that Poilievre looks a little offside on this one.
Interesting.
So while the premiers are standing shoulder to shoulder with the feds on a Team Canada approach, as leader of the opposition, he really has to make a decision. And his decision to date anyway has been to sort of attack. And he looks like a bit of the last man standing on this issue. So how long will he hold that position? And to Eric's point, if this becomes a really important topic for Canadians and an issue that would drive votes, he doesn't want to be seen to be on the outside. So I'm curious how he'll respond in the new year.
Yeah, it's actually something I haven't really thought about because I've been so focused on the premiers this week. But you're right in that he definitely is taking a different position. I think ultimately what he will capitalize on is that strength. And the question isn't really about this tariff issue. Trudeau is definitely, I would say, getting through it pretty well right now, especially at the support on the premier level. But what I think Pierre is doing and what the Conservatives are so good at doing is anticipating the long-term message, anticipating the long-term relationship. So in my mind, they're probably thinking about what would a Pierre Poilievre prime ministership versus a Donald Trump presidency look like. And I think that they want to lay that groundwork to put to Canadians, like, we are going toe to toe. And ultimately, if the Canadians all get together and sing Kumbaya, all the premiers, and they put tariffs on everything, and these tariffs still come in, that's not a win for Trudeau. That's going to be horrendous for the economy, for business, for everyday Canadians. And so I think that there's a big bet on this wild card with Trump from the Poilievre camp. And I think that they're playing it safe, but they're showing him as a leader. And he's kind of been out of it. He hasn't really talked about it that much this week. No. And that's a calculated risk I think they're taking.
So interesting to see how yet another big issue, how it's going to play out.
I know.
All eyes on the U.S.
I just want to give a shout out to BC because we're going to be disproportionately affected by these tariffs because of the number of natural resources that we have in British Columbia. I'd like to see, and maybe this also is a partisan divide, but I would have liked to see the premier come out and do something like Doug Ford and say, like, we're not going to stand for this. Maybe he will. Maybe he will. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that this is the beginning, we're in day 3 since the first minister's.
Only been 3 days.
Since the first minister's second meeting with the prime minister on this issue, and the premiers are all meeting together over the weekend. So I think and early into next week. So I think we're going to hear I think we're going to hear a lot more from all of the premiers next week. And again, this is their moment. This is a big moment for them. So I'm excited to see what they do with it.
I know
that is a good premier moment, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I do like a good premier moment. They get so few.
Really,
but
they do.
I just hope it all works out. I really do. I'm nervous, but
I know we all are.
Okay, let's talk about the holidays.
Okay.
Let's end on that.
All right.
What are your
like happy holiday moment?
Yeah.
Oh, this is so nice. Okay. I love this. Great. Let's do it. Okay.
We should leave our listeners with like some nice things to think about over the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
Are there any books you're planning on reading? Like your traditions?
I haven't even gotten that far. Okay. So well, everything is different this year because I'm going away for the holidays with my family.
Oh, that's
We
nice.
don't typically do this. I want my kids to come down the stairs in the morning and
so
get that like awe moment when they see that Santa has arrived and the presents are under the tree. And
I love that.
I'm a big sucker for that kind of tradition.
Oh, yeah.
So I have never really wanted to be away over Christmas because my kids are still little. You know, my girls are 7, and I know that the years of that awe moment are, you know, there's not that many ahead of us. So, but anyway, I was outnumbered by my family who
they're like, we gotta go.
They're like, no, sunshine though, mommy. And so we are going away next week. And we're going to be away until the end of the holidays. Now, that doesn't mean that, you know, Santa will find us no matter where we are. It just may be under a tree that I have drawn and slapped on a wall. Stay tuned. Go to Instagram. See what I do.
Oh my God.
I'm going to DIY this baby. But
I love that commitment. That's like next level commitment to the Christmas experience. Yes. Oh my God. I'm Jewish, as we all know from previous episodes. I don't ever get to celebrate Christmas, but I am we have Hanukkah, and this year the first night falls on Christmas Day, which is pretty awesome. Nice. Yeah. But I've always wanted to like throw a beautiful Christmas party in my home with like past hors d'oeuvres and beautiful lights, but I can't. I'm not.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to come to you.
Let
me ask you this. My friend Casey.
Yep.
She is Jewish. She's not my only Jewish friend, just FYI.
But just friend, yeah.
She celebrates Hanukkah, obviously. She also loves the tradition of Christmas. Yes. And she is following this trend of doing like a Christmaka party.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, could you do that? Like Christmas meets Hanukkah, all under one roof.
I just don't think I can. There's like, this is like a big divide in the Jewish community of like people that like kind of do Christmas.
I hope I didn't get Casey in trouble. Dear.
No. She's very like avant-garde to do that. I think the OC, remember that show? They used to celebrate Christmaka, and that's where it became popular like 20 years ago. I don't think... People keep asking me, would you ever put a tree in your house? And I would love nothing more. I'm seeing these families at the tree lots with their saws, and like I'm thinking, oh God, I wish I could do it. I just can't do it in my own home. I need to like adopt a family and join their Christmas.
Okay, Rach, then answer this question for me, because I was at Indigo.
Yep.
And there's a whole Hanukkah section, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But as part of the Hanukkah section are Hanukkah Christmas tree ornaments.
Yes.
Where do they go?
To tie it into politics, you may remember that the GST cut is also on in their list of things that are allowable under the GST cut and not. One of the things that's allowable is a Hanukkah bush. Now, there was a lot of hilarity in the Jewish...
hang things on a Hanukkah bush?
There's no such thing as a Hanukkah bush. Where did they get that from? A Hanukkah bush? They must have Googled this on like, what's that, urbandictionary.com. There is no such thing as a Hanukkah bush. Thank you to the federal government for thinking that there is and making that a thing. But typically, no. I mean, everybody has their level of observance. So like really the baseline is lighting a menorah, which is 8 candles. And every night you get to light 1 candle until you get the whole thing lit. And eating oily food like donuts, jelly donuts are very traditional.
Oh, so nice.
Yeah, it's not my thing, jelly donuts, but that's the tradition.
Yes.
Other than that, everybody takes it the way they want it. And
so Vivi, my daughter, one of my daughters, said to me, "Mom, can we celebrate Hanukkah?" And I was like, "Well, no." Because we're not Jewish and we have Christmas, like we have our own holiday kind of thing. And she's like, so? So we're not
Good for
Jewish.
her.
So why should that stop us from having a little Hanukkah in our house?
She's right. Which, contrary to my earlier point, would mean that I could celebrate Christmas.
Absolutely. Yes.
One day I will. I threw a holiday party for my neighbors the other day.
I mean, you could just do that. That's so generic.
It was really nice.
Holiday party.
It was. Yeah, it was great. I felt like, you know what, next year I'm going to commit to that big holiday party with like the wreath, and I'm going to just call it a holiday thing, not a Christmas thing, because I really love Christmas.
This, I think, is an interesting, you know, over the past few years, as we've been more, I mean, there's an insert word, woke, observant, I don't know, whatever you want to say. You know, there's been a big shift from sending a card that says like Merry Christmas. It should really say like Happy Holidays, because for obvious, or like getting like your mat out front. I don't know if you do this, like your mat out front of your front door. I have one of those like really.
Of course you do.
Yeah, of course I do. Like a yay! It's a Happy Holidays, jazz hands,
with your lights flashing.
But really, nothing says Christmas anymore.
I know, it's too bad. I'm a huge supporter of using Christmas. I say Merry Christmas to people all the time, even as somebody that doesn't celebrate it.
Totally.
Let's own Christmas. It's the Christmas season. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm totally into it.
This year, when I'm on a sandy beach with my DIY tree and my ham,
your DIY ham,
I'm going to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas.
A very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
And genuinely, to anyone who's listening, a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holiday, a Happy Hanukkah, whatever you're celebrating.
Wherever you're celebrating it.
Wherever you're celebrating, whatever you're celebrating. We hope that you will take our greeting of good wishes, not just for that holiday, but for a festive, healthy, and happy New Year.
I can't even echo that better. That was fabulous. Yes. And don't forget to, and happy holidays. Merry Christmas to you. Happy New Year. Do you have one goal for 2025?
Me?
Yeah.
Me?
Any goals? Are you a goal setter?
There's nobody else on this right now.
It's just you and me. Yep. Talking to you.
Do I have a goal for 2025? You know what? I haven't set a goal for 2025.
Okay.
And you know what? You know what's interesting is that I was at a retreat. I'll tell you this very short story. I went to this yoga retreat. I'm not really much of a retreaty person, mostly because I don't like to do a lot of public sharing, which I think is funny because, you know, I here I am as a co-host of a podcast, sharing. But there was, at the end of this retreat, the organizers asked us to write a letter to ourselves. And the question on the letter, I think, was something like,
oh, I like that.
It was like, it was supposed to be like, if you could dream it, like, what would it be, or something, or like, you're not living your dream yet, but you could, kind of thing. And you know what my instant reaction to that was? And I think I wrote myself something to this effect, is that I'm pretty damn close though. Like,
really?
Yeah. Like
I love to hear that.
I know. And I think we don't say it enough because we're always goal chasing and we're always
I
like,
got goosebumps there. I like that.
And listen, I'm not going to not grow my business. I'm not going to not grow the podcast. I'm not going to not. But when I look around, I feel like this year in particular, maybe because things have been so all over, like so destabilized globally, politically, I feel enormously grateful. Wow. I feel really happy with where I am. So maybe that's why I haven't set a true goal for next year. And I think that that's okay.
That is okay.
Yeah. What about
Contentment.
you?
Yeah. I guess mine.
Content. That's a good word.
Mine's maybe the complete opposite. My goal for 2025 is simplicity. I just need to simplify my life and do things that make things simpler.
Oh,
that's what I'm going to try and do.
Oh, that's a good one.
Like, I have 2 young kids and run a business and love politics and work in politics. And there's just a lot going on in the world. And so if something can make my life simpler, that's what I'm going to hang on to for 2025.
That's also a good one.
Mm-hmm. I thought so. It's been my mantra for the last 2 weeks, actually. I've been thinking, like, how do I simplify everything?
I'm curious what other people's goals are now. What other people's thoughts are. What other people's word is. Like if mine's contentment and yours is simplicity, what are your? Maybe we'll ask that on Instagram.
Yeah, we'll put it up on Instagram.
What's your
That'd
word?
be great. What's
your word for 2025?
That's right. Do you know there's this journal every year that I print off that some woman in England sends out, and it's like, it's called Unravel Your Year. I'll post it also. And it's a free thing you can print out, and it's like 200 pages. And it's just like, what did you do in 2024? What are you going to do in 2025? And I find that workbook so helpful every year.
So fun.
So
it's kind of like the Pantone color of the year.
Did you see what it was this year? It's brown. Mocha brown.
Yeah. I like brown.
I love brown. My nails are brown right now.
I mean, brown is brown, burgundy, forest green.
I'm super into
so
brown.
Major this year.
Who would have thought it would be brown? Brown's coming back. We're back to the 70s. Anyways, on that note, we should wrap up here for 2024. Just a reminder, we will be back on January 24th, and we are going to be talking about the couple of days before the Trump inauguration that we're all very interested to see what happens, especially when it comes to the tariffs. We could have tariffs by then, like I said, but we want to sincerely wish all of our listeners, anybody that's part of our community, a huge thank you for listening over the course of the last year. I want to give a big shout out to our amazing producer, Tim, who makes us sound good. We love you, Tim. And he added a cute little music note in there last week. I don't know if you heard that. So he's getting a little quirky now that he's worked with us for so long. We want to thank all of our guests that have come on since the beginning of the year. And we can't wait to see what 2025 and the federal election have to bring for Beyond a Ballot next year. So with that, we'll talk to you in 2025.
Thank you for listening. New episodes air every Friday.
Subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram and find us at beyondaballot.com.